Man, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what's up, guys? It's your boy, Zero here. Let me just get comfy for a second as we begin our show here today. Just want to make this, a little bit. There we go. Guys and girls, welcome everybody to Horror Theory, the best horror-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. Guys, I have got a couple of sheets worth of like show notes and things of that nature to kind of go over here with all of you. And you know what, man? It's been a kind of a crazy week when I think about it, so far. It's been absolutely wild. The things that have been coming up, the things that are happening. And I didn't want to waste any time. This is going to be partially, a state of, gaming currently. It's going to be a state of a number of things that have been going on in the world of gaming, esports, but more specifically, a lot of things that are happening in the world of horror and the, horror universe and things of that nature. And so, let me just pull this up real quick here. 'Cause guys, I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. I really do. And I'm appreciative of each and every one of you who have been joining us for our, live streams, watching our videos on Horror Theory. And, I just wanted to take, give back with, giving all of you even more content, more things that we can talk about, have real conversation about. It's really important to me that we keep these conversations open-ended where, whether we're talking about horror games, whether we're talking about just gaming and the gaming landscape, the world around us, I want to have a place for that. Weighty splashes here. If I'm being honest, I feel like Microsoft would have a single live event for State of Decay 3, kind of like what they did with Call of Duty. Really interesting. I mean, obviously, guys, we're kind of diving right into it. Appreciate you being here, Weighty Splash. It's interesting because I think about Call of Duty, right? I'm wearing the a Call of Duty hoodie right now because obviously today is the beginning of the open beta for Call of Duty Black Ops 7. And everything that I've seen from COD Next, I'll kind of get to my thoughts on Black Ops 7 and what I've seen so far. But specifically revolving around State of Decay 3, Xbox doing its own event for State of Decay 3 would be really awesome. I just don't know if that is something that's going to happen because when we think about Call of Duty, a franchise that has been around for so long, it's felt like, because it really has. It's been around for a long time. I'm not going to sit here and say that Xbox would never do a State of Decay 3 Direct or a State of Decay 3 Next or what a State of Decay Next, kind of like what they did with Call of Duty. But more than likely, Xbox is just going to kind of all of a sudden, we're going to get something. And more than likely, what we're going to be getting is gameplay. Whether it is at the Game Awards, a Dev Direct, or the Xbox Game Showcase, which is what I had predicted pretty much from the very beginning. We were going to get a State of Decay 3 gameplay trailer at the Xbox Game Showcase of 2026. So I think that's more likely where we are, because when I think about what Xbox is doing, or really what Call of Duty does every year, is they bring together a number of creators, streamers, pro players, and they put them into one space and they're all playing the new game, like Black Ops 7, for example. And it's really cool that they have an event like that. And I think it would be awesome for Xbox to do that for State of Decay 3. I have a feeling that they aren't, because State of Decay 3, although it's growing rapidly in popularity, it's not quite an Xbox flagship IP yet, like Call of Duty, because obviously Xbox owns Call of Duty now, or like Gears of War. I think Gears of War E-Day, it's more likely we see a Gears of War Direct, which I think we're going to see the Direct at the Xbox Game Showcase of 2026. But I could see them doing some kind of Gears of War Next or something, kind of like what they did with Call of Duty Next, where they fly out a bunch of Gears of War creators, pro players, streamers, things of that nature, to test out the new Gears of War E-Day. And have, like, you know, put everybody into a space, kind of like what they did with Call of Duty. Now, Call of Duty is such a, I mean, you know, one of the biggest franchises of all time. So obviously for Gears of War, it's not going to be quite the same, I don't think. I'm pretty sure that they would have a much smaller venue for Gears. But more than likely, at least in my mind, I'm thinking they would do something like that for Gears of War, or they would do something like that for Halo. If they did that for State of Decay 3, it would be absolutely incredible. I just don't know if Gears of War, or I should say Xbox, I don't know if they view State of Decay the way they do Gears or Halo or Call of Duty. It's not quite a flagship IP. I think we're one game away from that happening. And I think State of Decay 3 is going to be the turning point for Xbox, in terms of, it will be up there with Gears of War, with Halo, with Fable, as one of Xbox's major IPs. That was an exclusive, and I believe that State of Decay 3 is going to once again break the mold of being an Xbox console exclusive. I think it's going to go to PlayStation as well as Xbox. And so I guess all in all, what I'm getting at is, I don't believe we're going to get a State of Decay Next, kind of like what we had with Call of Duty Next. But I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see creators getting flown out to a location, and you know, just players, you know, like just gamers who absolutely love the State of Decay franchise. They get flown out and they get shown the new game, and you know, you get hands-on with the new title. They're going to do a lot of play testing, certainly. I just don't know if they're going to be doing like a beta. They're going to, you know, fly people out to test the game or play it. It's a smart idea because it builds a lot of hype. I just don't know if Xbox is going to do that here with State of Decay 3. If and when they would ever do a State of Decay 4, I think that's maybe where they would do that. Because I don't even know if they're going to do a direct or something of that nature for Fable. You know, I just don't even know if that's something that they're going to do, where they're flying out creators and stuff to play Fable in a certain location, like they are for Call of Duty. You know, a lot of the multiplayer shooters like Gears, Halo, Call of Duty, it's a little bit different because those are such massive IPs that they can justify flying out all these creators, all these streamers, pro players to, you know, to play test the game and, you know, obviously build a lot of hype for the game through streaming it, like live streaming the event, you know, so on and so forth. So all in all, I don't think that they're going to do a, you know, State of Decay Direct or Next or whatever, but it would be awesome, and it's certainly wishful thinking. That does lead me, though, to, you know, the Horror Game Awards did a Halloween showcase. And, you know, they showed off big kudos, props to the Horror Game Awards for putting on an event that apparently they've been doing it now for a few years, but it's starting to slowly but surely grow in popularity in such a way that the folks over at IGN, Future Game Show, Blumhouse are kind of sponsoring or partnering with the Horror Game Awards to put this show on. And the Horror Game Awards, if you guys didn't see our live stream, or I should say our watch party for the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase, it seems to be, without a shadow of a doubt, that the focus, the focal point of the showcase is to really show off all of these new indie horror games that are coming out that you may have never heard of. You know, myself and Jeff did the watch party, and that watch party, you know, and all the games that they showed like over 100 games at the, you know, Horror Game Award Halloween showcase. They showed 100 games or more. And of all those games, I would say a very small percentage. I mean, we're talking maybe 1% of the games I've heard of. 99% of those games that they showed, I've never heard of before. But I'm really glad that this is becoming a thing where the Horror Game Awards have taken it, you know, upon themselves to showcase all of these indie horror titles that are up and coming. And it was really cool to see all of these new games that are coming out, indie developers, labors of love. You could just tell that were shown off at the showcase. And, you know, although I was, you know, during the pre-show of the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase, I had mentioned the things I wanted to see there. And all of the games, for the most part, that I brought up that I wanted to see there were AAA games. And they showed none of them. Absolutely none of them. They showed all indie labors of love within the horror genre, within gaming. And I thought it was absolutely awesome. I really did. I thought the Horror Game Awards did an awesome job putting together this Halloween showcase. I cannot wait to see what they do here in the future. I think the next thing that they're going to be doing is the Horror Game Awards. So that's the next one that they're going to do, where they're kind of showcasing all. I'm sure they're going to be showing off some new games, you know, new gameplay reveal trailers, new IPs or new games that are coming out into the fray. But they're also going to be really showcasing the best of horror for 2025. And I think that's really awesome, man, that they're going to be doing this. I really do. It's amazing that you have an organization like the Horror Game Awards that are, not only are they putting a spotlight on indie developed horror games, but it's a spotlight on giving achievements or accolades to those indie games. And so my assumption is that the Horror Game Awards, that's apparently going to be happening, I believe, in December this year. I think last year it was like December 14th, I believe. They're now going to be, I believe it's every December they're doing this. And the same thing with the Game Awards, the official Game Awards. So I think it's the same month, but I'm excited to see what they decide to do here, because I have not seen the Horror Game Awards, their show for celebrating everything horror, or horror gaming, I should say, and celebrating all these indie games. I'm assuming it's indie games that are getting all of the nominations and winning and things of that nature for this thing. And so, like I said, I really think that the Horror Game Awards did an awesome thing by showcasing all these indie games at the Halloween showcase, and I believe they're going to continue doing that here with the Horror Game Awards in December. Now, that leads me, guys, even though we did not get a lick of State of Decay 3 at the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase, we did see some other games. And I kind of want to go through the games that really stood out to me. So these could be, if you guys did not see our watch party that Jeff and I did for the Horror Game Awards Halloween Showcase, these are some games to really keep your eyes on. As we're going here, as we're waiting for more information about State of Decay 3, as we're kind of just navigating the rocky waters that is the gaming landscape, I do have some games I want to share with all of you. The Nectar of the Gods, some good old Diet Pepsi, ladies and gentlemen. We are not sponsored by them, but I will be sipping on it as we go throughout the show. Let's start with this. You know, the horror game, this Halloween showcase, they showed 100 plus games, which I thought was absolutely awesome. And of those 100 plus games, I would say there were 20 of them that I'm like, okay, you've got my attention. We'll start with the first one being Contaminant. Contaminant, guys, seems to be and we kind of saw this as a pretty common theme with a lot of these indie games that are coming out. Contaminant, very much so reminisced of Resident Evil. And we saw this a lot. It was a very common theme that we saw at the Halloween showcase. A lot of these indie games are going for this Resident Evil vibe. And it makes sense because Resident Evil, I mean, currently, guys, is one of the biggest horror games, if not the biggest, in the world, right? When we talk about, you know, horror as a form of entertainment, right? Whether it's gaming, movies, TV shows, whatever, Resident Evil is quickly and certainly is more than likely the biggest horror IP in the world. You could maybe argue like Silent Hill is up there, but Resident Evil has been pretty consistent about adding new games to their franchise, doing shows, movies. You know, I believe they're doing like a movie reboot or a show reboot or something of that nature. But we're seeing a lot of Resident Evil inspired indie games, you know, just because there's such a fan base rallying around Resident Evil. Well, Contaminant definitely, we saw that certainly with that game. Liminal Point, I believe it was what it's called, was another game that was interesting. I mean, I've got my eyes kind of set on it. Not 100% sure exactly what it's about, but it was one that I wrote down as like, okay, this is a game that might be kind of cool, just to keep your eyes peeled on, especially, you know, if a demo comes out. A lot of these games, guys, have demos that are available now or are going to be, you know, becoming available to play the game, to at least just, you know, try it out and see what you think. A game that I really liked that was shown off at the Halloween showcase was called Shock. Shock is a game that your character, the main protagonist or whatever, is in a wheelchair. And it was a fascinating concept. And that was one thing that I will say about this Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase, was so many of the games that were shown here were so creative. I mean, and we're going to get into a number of them, guys, obviously. The ones that really stood out to me. But Shock was really interesting. You're like a veteran, a former military. You are in a wheelchair. And I'm not sure if it's like you're fighting, you know, you're suffering from PTSD and you're seeing like all these like demons, or you're seeing all of these like creatures and stuff. I'm not sure exactly the story that they're going for here, but the gameplay looks really cool. It looks to be a very compelling experience. that leads me to the next game that was really interesting at the showcase was called Scary Cargo. This definitely reminisced and was kind of was certainly inspired by Lethal Company. Scary Cargo looks to be one of those kind of horror comedy style games that you can jump in with your friends and just have just a fun co-op experience, adventure kind of thing where it's definitely scary. It's got some significant horror elements to it. You're kind of running through these tunnels or, this like warehouse. It means it's very fascinating to me. But it seems like one of those games that you aren't going to want to play by yourself because just the amount of memories it seems like you can make from a game like this. And, I think of games like Lethal Company where it's a lot of, it's certainly a game that's fun to play with others, but just, I don't know. It's more of the experience. It's just kind of like a really fun, um, exhilarating experience. And so I think Scary Cargo is going to be that. The next one I have written down here, guys, that I was really one of the games that was shown off at this Halloween showcase that really captured my eye was what is called Quite a Ride. And it seems like this game is you're kind of going from point A to point B on a bike. And as you're going, you're dodging, you're weaving on your bike. All of these kind of gave me Stranger Things vibes. Like, you're almost like in the Upside Down or something. And you are dodging all these like tentacles as they're coming out of the ground. And there's a some kind of demon or I don't even really know what it is, creature, or almost look like a clown that's like smiling at you that creeps over. And if you stare too long at it, as you're riding your bike, you'll die or something. It's kind of like Screech from the Roblox game. I think was it Doors? I think it was Doors in Roblox, where there's a creature in there called Screech. And if you have to look around for Screech because you hear him, he does a little psst, and then if you can't find him quick enough, he'll kill you or he'll hurt you really badly. And when you find him and you see him, he'll disappear. I look at this game as there's elements of this game similar to that. At least with that segment of the trailer that they showed us of the gameplay, but Quite a Ride looks like a ride. Like, I will tell you, it looks really interesting, very creative, looks pretty scary, and it is it's one of the, I would say if we're doing a list of nominated games that were shown off in terms of anticipation level, I would say that the two that we've gone over, maybe I would even say the three that we've gone over, the three so far would be Shock, Scary Cargo, and Quite a Ride. The next one, The Cave Diver. The Cave Diver, guys, is kind of like a side-scrolling game where you are this, I have no idea how you get into these caves. You're a cave diver, right? So they don't really tell us much backstory on it, but essentially I think you must fall into a cave, your legs break, and you're crawling through these caves, and it is very claustrophobic. You have to, obviously you're dealing with, it seems like the environments primarily, maybe there's creatures you're dealing with as well, but it looks like it's a pretty claustrophobic experience. And so it definitely looked interesting when I was doing the watch party with Jeff. He did not like it at all. He was saying that he absolutely did not want to play that game. He doesn't like games where that claustrophobic feeling and all of that stuff. And I agree. It's It's definitely it definitely looks to be a game that could be unnerving in a number of ways. The next one is a game called Cosmic Fear. This was a game I mentioned on the watch party that, although I'm excited about it, I really want to see more. It was kind of one of those games during the showcase that led me to wanting to see more about the game. Um, a number of these we want to. It's awesome to see more, but like Cosmic Fear, it kind of gave us that tease where, man, I kind of want to see what else they're thinking about doing here with this game. And so Cosmic Fear is without a shadow of a doubt on the list of games I want to see more of, but I was definitely fascinated by it. The next one, which was probably another game that's absolutely nominated on my list of, nominated games of most anticipated that we saw at the showcase, is a game called After Lights Out. And this is a really interesting game. It is PT inspired. It is Silent Hills inspired. Certainly, when you watch it, guys, they took some things from the movie Lights Out. They took inspiration from PT, without a shadow of a doubt, which PT was playable teaser by none other than Hideo Kojima. It was his take on Silent Hill, and it was a playable teaser. It was like a demo that you could play. And this game is very similar to that in different ways, but like when you turn the lights off, the ghosts go away, or if you turn the lights on, you see, like, it's really, really a fascinating title. I would definitely keep your eyes peeled on After Lights Out. The next one I wrote down, which I don't believe it was a really original game, but we need to see more before we can make an accurate assumption or kind of breakdown of it, even though I am fascinated by it, is a game that's called They Are Here. And They Are Here is about, obviously, aliens are here. They invaded the earth or whatever. You're in a car. I don't even know if you can get out of your car, but in the trailer that was shown, you're driving. It's like you're kind of about to go into like a tunnel area, and an alien jumps down, stares at you, and it's one of your classic alien models, the big head, gray man kind of ordeal. And it's staring at you, and then there's another alien that jumps on the passenger side near the window, and then on the right side, and then you realize that there's one behind you, and then the trailer ends. And so that was a game that, although it didn't seem incredibly original, I gotta tell you, I'm interested to see more, because they didn't really tell us, are you able to get out of the car? Are you exploring? Are you what are you doing exactly? And so I think that They Are Here is just one to keep your eyes on. Like I said, all of these guys, I would just keep your eyes on, and check these guys out on social media. These are all like labors of love, indie developed horror games that I think some of them, I mean, pretty much all the ones I'm going over right now are fascinating. Like, creative, they look good. I mean, sure, guys, they're not AAA games. They are not games that have the backing of millions upon millions of dollars, and but you can see that they're utilizing the resources they have to make these labors of love. And so I just think it's really cool, and it's important that we support this. Another game, the next one, Animal Use Protocol. This is a game where you play as a monkey, and you are you have a multi-versatile utility gun that you can put multiple different attachments on, and you have a rat, a talking rat, that talks to you throughout the course of what we saw, at least in the gameplay, kind of helps navigate you where you're going and stuff like that. And so it was a really interesting title. Kind of gave me like a horror titled High on Life game, kind of inspiration almost. And so I thought it was really creative, and I think that it could be a really interesting title in the future. Another one that I would say I definitely want to see more of, similar to Cosmic Fear, was a game called Psycho Dead. And Psycho Dead, I got a number of vibes from this one in relation to, inspirations that they made for this game. But I don't know, man. When we watched the trailer live, I said, you know what? That's a game that I want to see more of. I definitely want to see more of it. It looks fascinating to me. Even though it's, you don't know exactly. A lot of these guys, what was interesting was the folks creating these games, a lot of them, they don't really tell us much. We didn't get told much about story, lore, things of that nature. It was more like, here's a gameplay trailer, check it out. And then we had to kind of come to our own conclusions on some of these things. Now, I'm sure on the Steam pages for a lot of these games, you could probably go on there and, find out more information about them, certainly. But nonetheless, I thought, Psycho Dead was another one that was fascinating. There was a game that they showed off also there that certainly reminisced of this war of mine. It's a game called Into the Dead and Our Darkest Days. And this seems like it seems to be a pretty strong narrative driven story that you're going through. I can't quite remember if there were like choices that you make along the journey or whatever, but it definitely seems like this war of mine. Jeff brought that up originally, and I said, yeah, you know what? I think that you're right. I think that this could be something very similar to this war of mine. So I very well could have been inspired by that. But it's another one I would definitely keep your eyes on. The next game that we saw at this Halloween showcase that caught my attention, which seems like they probably have the biggest budget of all of these games, seems like they're creating almost like a franchise called Broken Lore. Broken Lore, they showed like 4 different games within the Broken Lore universe that are being worked on, it seems like simultaneously. Like they're working on all of these games within the Broken Lore universe. And what I loved about seeing this was, number one, it seems like they more than likely got a decent investment from someone to make all 4 of these games. But what I also really liked about it was each of these games were very different from one another. It wasn't all the same. It was definitely, each one was kind of stood on its own, was a little bit different. And so what I reminds me when we talk about Broken Lore is it reminds me of the Dark Pictures anthology, like the folks that made Until Dawn, The Quarry, Directive 8020, those guys. And it reminds me of that. Like Broken Lore seems to be like a Dark Pictures kind of anthology, but just a different, obviously a different universe. And so I'm very interested to hear more about Broken Lore. And it was definitely one that stood out because we got 4 trailers for 4 different games within the Broken Lore universe at the showcase. The next one, a game called Project Songbird. And I'm trying to remember the guy who made this. He was on the pre-show, the creator of this or the game director or whatever. He was talking a multitude of times during the pre-show. I wasn't really listening to it because I was kind of giving my my predictions or things that I wanted to see at the Horror Game Award showcase when every time he was on screen. But I think that Project Songbird reminded me a lot of Blair Witch Project. You're like in the woods. You do have a gun, which it's gonna be interesting to see how this game kind of plays out. But it seems like it's another one of those like psychological horror games that is set in the woods. And it's kind of interesting because during the showcase, Will over at Resident Evil Central and the other two who are hosting the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase, every time they came on screen to kind of talk, they were in the woods. And they made it look kind of like a found footage film, the way that the camera was, the way the picture quality was and everything. And every time that they would come up on screen, it was like they were kind of almost doing some kind of parody of the Blair Witch Project. And so it was interesting that they tied that together because then the game director during the pre-show, he was also in the woods, and that obviously had something to do with Project Songbird. So I thought that Project Songbird, though, looked really interesting, and I'm excited to see more. At first, when they showed the trailer, I thought, you know what, Project Songbird is probably just a code name for something else. That's probably not what the game's called, but I think the game's coming out really soon. And so I think that Project Songbird is the name, the official title of the game. But, you know, nonetheless, thought that was interesting. The next one was Tic Tac 12 o'clock. I'm really excited about this one. I really am. I actually went on to the Tic Tac 12 o'clock, the developers' X accounts, and guys, they don't have very many followers. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like these are guys and girls who are making these games who have very small followings, indie developed games that are labors of love. We got to show these people some love. I mean, really, because when I saw Tic Tac 12 o'clock, I was like, bro, I love this. Like, just the from the arts, whether it's any of these games, the art style, the narrative direction, the lore that they're trying to build here, the scares, the creature designs, all that stuff. I'm really excited about Tic Tac 12 o'clock, so definitely check that one out as well. The next one, which I thought was really, really interesting, Dead Reset. There were two games. I forget what the second game was called, but Dead Reset was one of the games that they showed at the showcase that was a, what's the word? Interactive game. A fully interactive game. I thought it was absolutely fascinating. And I am really excited that this game, and then the other one, I can't remember the name of it, but I'm just glad that this is a game that exists, right? Dead Reset, definitely check it out, guys. I mean, I thought for an indie interactive horror game, it's something to definitely check out. The next one, or I should say the last one, that was interesting, definitely seemed pretty wacky, but like was really interesting to me, was Made of Skur. When I saw that, my God, it looked, like I said, just very different. And that was like a common theme I saw with all of these. They're different. Yeah, they're taking inspiration from other games, but they're kind of all standing on their own in one capacity or another. And so Made of Skur was really interesting. It actually reminded me, even though it's like totally different, it reminded me of the game that released on Xbox called Scorn. Scorn was kind of that game, guys, that came out. I'm trying to remember how long ago that was, a couple of years ago. And Scorn was the game that was like, it was very Alien inspired and Prometheus inspired. And that was a really wild, wacky game. Made of Skur kind of remind me in a way of that. I don't want to touch too much on this next thing. Because I don't really believe that it deserves to get this, too much attention, because I wasn't a big fan of what was shown from these next two games. These two games, guys, that were really like kind of borderline, I didn't think should have even been shown at the showcase, but was a game called Tormentor and Be Crowned. I don't want to talk too much about them, because the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, dude, I don't really agree with these even being shown. I'm actually kind of shocked that they were shown at this thing. But Tormentor was like a grotesque, like a flip on Outlast. So like in Outlast, you're the victim and you're trying to escape, right? Well, in Tormentor, you are the villain and you're torturing people and you're selling the tapes to like the Red Room or Black Market or whatever. It's a very disturbing game. And I don't really, I just didn't, I know it's a horror game without a shadow of a doubt. I did not like seeing that at the Game Awards Halloween showcase. I just thought it was a game that kind of went a little bit too far. And, the developers who made that game, bro, I don't even want to know. I really don't. But Crowned wasn't quite as bad, but it was very, seemed very ritualistic, like a satanic type of style game. And although we didn't see a lot from it, just a few shots of the game, I did not like, look, guys, I'm all about horror games. I love horror as a genre, gaming, movies, all that stuff. But I do think that there's a place where it kind of crosses the line a little bit. And I feel that, especially with a game like Tormentor, because Be Crowned kind of reminded me like this is probably going to be heavily Outlast inspired. And I loved Outlast. I thought those games were unnerving. They're terrifying. And I think that Be Crowned is kind of like that. Seems very, very ritualistic and stuff. But, so that one I can give a pass to. But Tormentor, I just don't, I think it kind of leads to question whether games like that should exist. I think of when we look at another form of medium, movies, right? There's a movie that you could look at that would be similar to like a Tormentor, which was Hostel. I think, though, that with some of these forms of medium, there's something different about watching it and actually doing the actions, right? And so Tormentor, to me, it was borderline crossing a line to me. Like if I had a buddy of mine, Jeff said it perfectly. If we had a buddy of ours that were playing that game or had that in their library, we'd be like, yo, bro, are you good? Like that would be like potentially a serious thing, like that we would ask somebody like, bro, why are you playing that game? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, a lot of game developers, they want to kind of create disturbance, because then everybody's talking about it, and then it gets, creates more sales or whatever. They want to be a little bit disturbing. So I was a little bit disturbed by that game, but Crowned was kind of, like I said, not as borderline, but it was it reminded me a lot of Outlast. So we got to see more information about that. But overall, Wadey Splash says, I thought that Dead Reset looked good. Yeah, I do too. I think like you have an interactive horror game that looks like that. I was thoroughly impressed. I want to see how it plays. I definitely want to see how it plays. But that kind of wraps it up, guys, for me, for the Horror Game Awards and that Halloween showcase. The next thing that the Halloween, or I should say the Horror Game Awards, is going to be doing is they're going to be doing the Horror Game Awards in December. So that'll probably be the next time that we see or hear anything from them. And we are going to be doing a watch party for that as well. So very, very excited about that. Let me know what you guys thought, though, in the comment section down below about the Horror Game Awards as a whole. What were some games that stood out to you? Drop down to that comment section down below. Let us know. And with that down, guys, and out of the way, let's move on to this. I had mentioned earlier that, State of Decay 3, not, obviously it wasn't at the Halloween showcase. I want to talk, though, about specifics on, why it wasn't at the Halloween showcase. And I think at the first glance, the reason why State of Decay 3 wasn't at the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase is because, well, 99% of all the games that were shown at the Halloween showcase were not AAA games. They are aggressively trying, that being the Horror Game Awards, to put a spotlight on indie horror games, which is awesome. And obviously, State of Decay is a AAA game through and through. Being funded by Xbox. I mean, it's an Xbox game studio, that being Undead Labs. And so that's the first part. That's why it wasn't at the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase. But I also think that even if there were other AAA games that made their presence known at the Halloween showcase, I think Xbox wants to control everything that's going on with their big IPs, which State of Decay is slowly but surely growing into one of their major IPs. And I think that after State of Decay 3, it will become officially a flagship IP for Xbox. So what I mean by they want to control the narrative there is they want to release the gameplay kind of on their own terms. They want to release information on their own terms. So, like, as an example, could we see it, that being like gameplay for State of Decay 3 at the Game Awards? We could. I mean, it's very possible, certainly. Vandalism asks, when is the showcase? Well, the showcase, so the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase just happened, and you can go back on our on Horror Theory and you can check. We did a watch party for the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase, but the Horror Game Awards, which is a celebration of all things horror, especially like indie horror, is going to be sometime in December. So they're going to have that in December. The Game Awards itself, that is going to happen in December as well. And then we're going to be having a Dev Direct from Xbox, I believe, in January. And then we have the Xbox Game Showcase, which has become pretty much routinely in June. And so with State of Decay 3, I think we will more than likely, guys, Jeff believes that we're going to be seeing State of Decay 3 at the Game Awards this year. I don't believe we are. I think, even though I would love to see it at the Game Awards or the Horror Game Awards, I don't think we're going to see it at either of those. I don't even think we're going to see it at the Dev Direct from Xbox. I think we're going to see it at the Xbox Game Showcase. Because number one, Xbox wants to control the narrative. They want to be in control of their IPs, like when they're showing information or gameplay or whatever, they want to be in control of that. And the next thing is that being Xbox, they want to show this game off or gameplay off to the biggest crowd they possibly can. Now, the Game Awards is a good one because there's a lot of people who watch the Game Awards, but Xbox is probably thinking, you know what, instead of paying to be on the Game Awards, let's just have it on our showcase, the Xbox Game Showcase. And we'll show it off there, which, you know, that's going to be June of next year, which obviously seems like a long time, but it's really not far away when you really start thinking about we're in October right now and the showcase is in June. So it's going to be here before you know it. You know what I'm saying, guys? So I just don't think we're going to see State of Decay 3 at the Game Awards, the Horror Game Awards, or the Dev Direct. I think we're going to see it at the Xbox Game Showcase of 2026, which would be June. Now, if we saw it at any of those, like outside of the Xbox Game Showcase, let's say between those three, right? Horror Game Awards, the Game Awards, and the Dev Direct, which one would they show it at? It would certainly be the Game Awards. The Game Awards, guys, is being put on, you know, Jeff Keighley, you know, Future Game Show, Summer Game Fest, you know, all that stuff. I mean, the same guys who put on all of those. So the Game Awards would be the best opportunity to get the biggest audience to watch and see, oh my God, we're getting gameplay for State of Decay 3, which would be absolutely huge. I believe they do have the dates for the Game Awards. I'm not sure exactly when it is. I just know it's in December. Same thing with typically the Horror Game Awards, which has only been happening for the last, I think, 4 or 5 years. And I believe that the one last year was December 14th. So I don't know if they're doing a, you know, super similar to that, but I believe that that's what we're going to be seeing the Game Awards, or I should say the Horror Game Awards will be there at, you know, at some point in December. Wadey Splash says, if State of Decay 3 gets shown at the Game Awards, there's a chance it could be be on Game Dev in January, 100%. If they show it at the Game Awards, I believe that there's a very high likelihood they're going to show it at the Dev Direct or whatever in January. I'm totally with you. If they don't show it at the Game Awards, I don't think they're going to show gameplay of State of Decay 3 at the Dev Direct. I think that they would show it at a Dev Direct after the Xbox Game Showcase, because that's when I think that they would show, you know, State of Decay 3. They would show at least something. They would just kind of give us whether it's gameplay or gameplay and a release date announcement or, you know, something. I think we're going to get both of those things. I really do. I think we are going to more than likely get the release date as well as a gameplay trailer at the Xbox Game Showcase of 2026. That's when I think we're going to see the next time, I should say, that I think we're going to see State of Decay 3. I look at it, guys, and I say to myself, okay, we have had radio silence from State of Decay or Undead Labs, completely radio silence. Yeah, some of the developers are getting on Reddit and they're, you know, talking about, oh, we've got all this stuff that we can't wait to show you guys. We're still working on, which is awesome. I'm glad they're doing that. I really wish they would do that on social media. Like, I'm not Reddit aside, I'm saying like X, Facebook. I mean, let everybody know, dude. Like, yo, we got tons of stuff to show you guys. I just think it would set the entire State of Decay community ablaze with excitement if you were telling everybody on all the social media platforms, just giving us updates on what's going on, you know, so on and so forth. Even just teasing us stuff like, you know, showing a date on a piece of paper and it's kind of blurred and it says we'll see you guys June. And then the dates, like June is, you see June, but then you don't see everything else. Everything else is blurred. It's like, oh my God, they're going to show it at the Xbox Game Showcase. Or just give us like little, like, you know, things that we can talk about as a community. I don't know. There's just been such a lack of content, in my personal opinion. Vandalism says, I mean, Little Nightmares 3 is coming out. Yeah. Little Nightmares looks great, dude. I mean, honestly, I love that, you know, the co-op elements of it. The Little Nightmares is a really fun franchise. It's really cool. I really enjoy it. Didn't they fire their social media team? I have not heard that. I have absolutely no idea if they fired their social media team. That would be Undead Labs. And honestly, dude, I'm going to tell you this. They should. If they haven't already, they should. Because the fact of the matter that it's been totally radio silent is absurd. And I'm going to go a step further. The guys and girls who have been over at the Coalition for Gears of War Reloaded, Gears of War E-Day, that entire social media team should have been fired a long time ago. Because the fact of the matter is that there was such a lack of hype and buildup for Gears of War Reloaded. And if that happens for Gears of War E-Day as well, I think that the franchise is going to go into a limbo state or a state of no return. You have got to have a social media team that is locked in to responding to the community, sharing updates, posting things like it is asinine, asa 10, asa 11 to me that you have these flagship IPs and there's no action happening on their social media platforms. And I'm not talking about like a dev from there, like just giving a little snippet of information on Reddit. I'm not talking about that. That's a wormhole, dude. Like, I'm talking, we need the official State of Decay X account, the official Gears of War X account to be really active, bro. I mean, especially Gears of War. Gears of War Reloaded is out now. And they've maybe tweeted like 10 times. Bro, there should have been 50 to 100 tweets the month before Gears of War Reloaded comes out. And then like 500 to 1,000 tweets. You know what I'm saying? Like the month of, you know, August. You know, I don't know, dude. You know, I mean, Gears of War Reloaded's been out for over a month, and it's absolutely crazy to me that we're in this state of mind for these developers. But I don't know, dude. It is what it is, and you know, whatever, bro. I'm totally off it, and it is saddening to me. It really is. How many years have gone by in the State of Decay universe? Well, I don't know if you're asking like specifically like, you know, the years of State of Decay, or if you're talking like when the game like came out initially. I think that State of Decay, I mean, I can look it up. I'm pretty sure State of Decay 2 came out in 2018. Let me just double check. Wasn't it like 2016 that State of Decay came out? No, 2013. State of Decay officially released to the world, dude, in 2013. 2018 is when State of Decay 2 came out. They had the Year 1 Survival Edition that came out in 2015. Then, of course, State of Decay 2 comes out in 2018. Juggernaut Edition came out in 2020. I mean, look, it's not like it's been a decade that we've been waiting for State of Decay 3, but it feels like it's felt like a while, you know what I'm saying? Because for a lot of these I don't know, dude. We've had um I'm just trying to think here. You know, when since 2018, a lot of, the gaming landscape has changed in a number of ways. But I just like think about it and I'm like, bro, a lot of these games, one of the things I know that a lot of games take a long time to make, right? A AAA game can take a long time. I acknowledge that. But I would say, dude, that you got to strike while the iron's hot. Or is it just me? You know what I'm saying? I feel that State of Decay is a game that if you kept striking while the iron's hot, bro, I'm telling you, you'd be in good shape. I really do. Now, if that means that you would have a lower quality game with State of Decay 3 or whatever entry we're talking about, then no, I don't think that they should do that. They should take their time and make the game they need. But I think that State of Decay 3 has just suffered from a lot of development hell issues, change at, just turnover. You've got multiple studios helping with State of Decay 3, like the Coalition, Obsidian, and Undead Labs. They're all working on the game together. I mean, it's like, bro, like, there's been a lot of issues. Period. End of discussion. Could we say that State of Decay 1 takes place in early 2000 because of the original Xbox that you can find in one of the houses? I think it could be 20 years. I don't know. It's a good question, actually. I'm not really sure. But I mean, to me, it's like the timeline that it's taken to get State of Decay 3. And I just look at it and I say, okay, if State of Decay 2 Juggernaut Edition comes out in 2020, I mean, you've had what, 5 years? Going on 6 years now to get this game made. And even though I know that State of Decay 3 was being worked on before 2020, but they had nothing to really show when they had the Xbox Game Showcase of 2020 and they showed the first State of Decay 3 trailer, which apparently wasn't even done by Undead Labs. So I don't know, bro. I mean, it's an unfortunate ordeal. But I do believe, I will say this, I do believe that we're getting closer to State of Decay 3 coming out. I just think we got to give it more time. I really do. But anyways, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about that in the comment section down below. That being said, guys, and out of the way, I'm going to take a quick break here, grab a couple of things, and then we're going to continue with talking about what's up and coming for the Game Awards, and we're going to continue onwards with the Game Awards, the Dev Direct, Xbox Game Showcase, things that we can expect, and then we'll go from there. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. Had to make a couple of quick phone calls. But we're back. Yours chosen's here. What's up, bruh? How we doing? All right, guys. So we talked about the Horror Game Awards. Kind of went over that, did a nice recap. Now I want to talk about the Game Awards. What can we expect from the Game Awards? You know, it's interesting to me because, well, number one, Jeff, who is my co-host on the show typically, he has mentioned multiple times that he believes that the next time that we see something about State of Decay 3 will be at the Game Awards this December. And obviously, State of Decay 3 is the number one thing that we are passionate about, excited about, whatever you want to call it, guys. That's what we are absolutely hyped beyond belief about, is State of Decay 3. We want to see, hear, we want to just get any type of information, content, something in relation to State of Decay 3 at the Game Awards. I would love to see it. I've stated multiple times, I don't think that we're going to see it at the Horror Game Awards. I don't think we're going to see it at the Game Awards. I don't think we're going to see it at the Dev Direct in January. I think we're going to see it at the Xbox Game Showcase of 2026, which more than likely is going to be June. Now, what else could we expect to see at the Game Awards? Well, the reality is that, another game that we talk quite regularly about here on the show is Gears of War E-Day. I think that there's a possibility, but once again, I think it's something that Xbox is going to want to control. They want to control the narrative when things are getting released. And so the Game Awards would be a great platform. I even felt like Gamescom was a great opportunity for, Xbox to show off some of these IPs, including, Gears of War Reloaded before it came, obviously it was before it came out. Gears of War E-Day would have been really cool to see that there, State of Decay 3. But they haven't shown anything at Gamescom, and so the reality is do I think they're going to show it at the Game Awards? I just don't really know. Yes, they're going to have a much bigger audience at the Game Awards than they will at the Dev Direct or, even the Horror Game Awards, because the Horror Game Awards are going to be primarily, centered around indie horror games. But to me, I think it would be a great starting point for us with State of Decay 3, at least getting the hype and anticipation building for a 2026 release date. I don't think that we're going to see State of Decay 3 release in 2026 unless it's shown at the Game Awards. If they showed State of Decay 3 at the Dev Direct, or they show it at the Xbox Game Showcase especially, I don't think that we're going to get State of Decay 3 in 2026. I think it would be, the release date would be shown at the showcase, but the release date would be in 2027. I could be wrong about that, but I just think with how many, I should say, like, how many Xbox games it looks like are more than likely going to be releasing in 2026 as a whole. Give me a sec, guys. What's up? How are you? Oh, yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, um, I'm in Zero Dark right now. Zero Dark is South Carolina's home for gaming and esports. And so it's well, it's a gaming cafe. So, people come in and out of here pretty regularly. So the more that you guys see us stream out of here, there'll be times where we have to uh, take care of different things and whatever when people are coming in here. We just opened the space in January, and it's been, man, dude, it's been a crazy experience. Like, really, it's been really cool. Like, starting our own business and a place for people to come together to, you know, sharing their love of video games. And, it's been a massive part of my life. And I've had this idea in my head for over a decade to create a space where people, content creators, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, gamers could all come together to create content, to compete in tournaments. We have tournaments pretty much. We have tournaments every week out of here. So like it's a pretty it's been it's definitely, we've had some growing pains with it, but it's been a really cool experience overall. But anyways, where was I? State of Decay 3, right? At the Game Awards would be awesome, but I think it'll be Xbox Game Showcase. And at the Xbox Game Showcase, you're talking June, right? More than likely, we're talking June. Wadey Splash says, I hope it doesn't release in 2027. Yeah, I mean, look, dude, I hope so too. I want it right now. Like, I want it shadow dropped today. You know what I'm saying? But I just look at the let's take this practically, right? What we know, okay, is next year, what are the games that are scheduled to release next year? Well, if we want to talk about the beginning of the year and we want to talk about games that are like, I guess we should probably talk about all the different kinds of games. But if we're talking specifically horror games, we've got the first big one that's hitting next year is Resident Evil Requiem. And Resident Evil Requiem is going to be releasing February of 2026. Okay. So let's just say Xbox is like, okay, we want to release State of Decay 3 in 2026. Where should we put it? Well, you probably don't want to release it near Resident Evil Requiem, because Resident Evil, guys, is one of, if not the biggest horror titles in the world, right? I mean, when we think about, when we talk about the biggest horror games on planet Earth, Resident Evil is at the top. I mean, you could argue maybe Silent Hill, but like Silent Hill has not been consistently bringing out as many games as Resident Evil has. I mean, you have Silent Hill F that just came out, which I have not played it yet. It looks great, and it looks pretty unnerving. And, it's it's kind of a change of what we've had in the past with Silent Hill, even though it's got that, certainly has its the Silent Hill roots in it. It's different, right? But nonetheless, I mean, it sold 1 million copies in like 4 days. So absolutely awesome. Huge shout out to the guys and girls over at what is that, Konami, for bringing that out and just crushing it. And then they've had the Silent Hill remake, or Silent Hill 2 remake, done by Bloober Team, which was met with rave reviews. But Resident Evil has been doing a lot of those remakes as well for their games. And Resident Evil, I just look at it, they've had, from Biohazard to Village, and now you have Requiem. It's the biggest horror franchise on the planet. So nonetheless, I don't think that you want to go anywhere near Resident Evil Requiem, okay? A few months later, after Resident Evil Requiem comes out. So you could probably put State of Decay 3 somewhere between like March and April, like maybe one of those 2 months. But what comes out May is going to be more than likely the biggest game of all time, GTA 6, right? Which is slated for May 26 of 2026. You want no parts of GTA 6. Like, you don't want to be near GTA 6 at all. So my recommendation would be either you want to stay ahead of GTA 6 or you just wait until a decent amount of time after. Because that game's going to take the entire gaming industry by storm. So I don't think you want to be anywhere near there. So if you're going to release State of Decay 3 Q1 of 2026, you're going to want to release like March, sometime in March, probably. You don't really probably want to do April because everyone's going to be so hyped about GTA 6. So let's say Q1 of 2026, right? They go to plan to release it. Well, we don't even have a gameplay trailer. We have nothing. We had one trailer in 2020, which was the reveal that wasn't even apparently made by Undead Labs. And then 4 years later, we got trailer 2 at the Xbox Game Showcase of 2024 without a release date or anything of that nature. And so are they really going to release it Q1 of 2026 when we don't even have a gameplay trailer? If they did, there would be some huge red flags associated with that. I will say I would really like to see a character from the first game make an appearance in State of Decay 3. I mean, yeah, I'd be totally down with that. That'd be cool. I think that would be awesome. I think it'd be cool to have some existing characters and then, of course, some new characters, some existing zombies, some new zombies like the wildlife zombies, the change of season. You want to have similarities certainly to the DNA of State of Decay, but you also want to have some differences. And to me, guys, I've stated this a lot, but the State of Decay 3 trailer 1, in my personal opinion, this is just my opinion, was more compelling than the second one for a couple of reasons, but the main one being that there were changes we saw in State of Decay 3's trailer 1, like the change of season. We saw snow, like a snowy map. Like, okay, that's cool. We saw zombie wildlife, a zombie deer, I really like that. Those were two things that were different that we haven't seen in State of Decay up to this point. Trailer 2 was kind of more of the same that we've gotten in the past couple of games. The main difference was the graphic fidelity. The graphics were incredible for trailer 2. I don't know. So I definitely want to see similarities. I don't want to copy and paste just enhanced graphics. I definitely think that there's going to be a number of changes to State of Decay, 3 when it finally releases to the other games. I don't know. I feel like there's got to be similarities, but there also has to be some differences to really make it a compelling experience, an experience that you want to come back to over and over again. So let's just say Q1 2026 is out of the picture, right? Because the amount of time you have for marketing would be not very much between now and then. So let's move into Q2. May, June, July, August. You want to stay very far away from May. June, July, and August is interesting because right now we don't know, like, okay, what all is coming out in the summer of 2026, right? We know very little about what's coming out Q2, at least right now, outside of GTA 6, because it seems like everybody wants to stay away from GTA 6 with good reason. I mean, it's going to take the entire gaming world by storm. Everybody knows it. It's going to break the internet. I mean, it's going to be so big that for May, because it's the end of May that's coming out apparently, June, you want to stay away from June because everyone's playing GTA. July, okay, maybe July, maybe August, right? But let's talk about the other games that haven't gotten, like, they're stating 2026 is when they're releasing. We just don't know yet when. Okay, let me give you some. Number one, Fable. And I'm just going to kind of talk about like Xbox IPs right now. Like, we're not even going to really, I mean, PlayStation and all these other, like, they're going to have their own slate of games, Nintendo as well. But I'm saying let's stick with Xbox right now, okay, shall we? So Fable is scheduled to come out in 2026. Well, when is Fable coming? And State of Decay is way different than Fable. But I'm just saying, Fable is a flagship IP for Xbox. So when is Fable coming out? Well, is it going to be in the fall or is it going to be in the summer? I feel like it's going to be a summer release because when we get to the fall, we're going to talk about it's going to start getting kind of packed in the fall. So I think Fable is probably going to release in the summer. What else is going to be coming? Well, Gears of War E-Day, I believe, is going to be the direct for the Xbox Game Showcase. Kind of like the Outer Worlds 2 was the direct of this year's Xbox Game Showcase. I think Gears of War E-Day is going to be that for the Xbox Game Showcase next year. So Gears of War E-Day is kind of like the biggest game that Xbox is going to be releasing next year, or at least in terms of like the numbers and all that stuff, right? Fable's going to be big though too, but I think Gears is going to be their biggest. So Gears of War E-Day, when is that going to release? Well, that's probably going to be a fall release, more than likely September, October probably. State of Decay 3 would probably do really well around Halloween in terms of like a release date. But are you really going to put State of Decay 3 and Gears of War E-Day near each other? You see what I'm saying? Like, even though they're different games, it's like Xbox wants to kind of spread out their games, especially like the Xbox IP games, you know? So are they going to release those to get close together? I mean, I don't think they will. If they did, I don't know if it's a really good decision to do that. The biggest game that Xbox is going to release next year, which it's the biggest game every year. Now, next year, it won't be the biggest game of the year, but Call of Duty. Call of Duty notoriously comes out every single year. Well, is Call of Duty going to come out? I mean, it's going to come out in 1 to 2 months, October or November. It seems like they're starting to go with this trend of November now. So Gears of War E-Day, you know, being in October with Call of Duty in November, I mean, I don't even know if I think Xbox might be like, let's release Gears of War E-Day in September. You know, give it some time before Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 4, or whatever they release next, comes out. So do you want to release State of Decay 3 near Call of Duty, near Gears of War, near Fable? You know, I mean, whatever else they decide. I mean, if they're bringing out another Forza, you see what I'm saying? Like, because I look at this and I say to myself, when would be the best time for them to release State of Decay 3 in a year that's getting packed with games? I'll bring up another game that's releasing fall of 2026, apparently. Now, it's not an Xbox exclusive, but we know it's coming from PlayStation, is Wolverine. Once again, Wolverine is not anything even remotely close to State of Decay. But what I'm saying, guys, is do you want a game that you believe is going to become a flagship IP for you? Do you want it to get, like, watered down in terms of the audience because of a game like Wolverine coming out? Wolverine will be a massive game. Make no mistake about it. After I saw the gameplay reveal and all of those things, I'm going to tell you guys right now, Wolverine is going to be a big game. And I think it's going to be pretty good. Because if it's anything remotely close to Spider-Man and the replayability of Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Miles Morales, brother, Wolverine's going to be huge. It's going to be a big game. So I'm just saying, do you really want to be around those juggernauts that are coming out? Or would you rather push the game to 2027, stamp your release date and say, we're releasing Q1 of 2027, we're sticking with it, and then everybody else can kind of fit around you or whatever? Because I'm telling you right now, especially if the buzz gets really big for State of Decay 3, like the gameplay reveal trailer, the release date that comes out, say Q1 2027, what that's going to do is, especially if there's a lot of buzz around it, other developers will stay a little ways away from you. Like, if there's another horror game that's coming out, it's like, do we really want to go up against State of Decay 3 right now? So what I'm saying is, I feel like they've got to stamp their release date way ahead of time so that other companies like then start fitting around State of Decay 3. Like, for example, you know, Resident Evil Requiem, they've announced it's coming out in February of 2026, right? Well, I think that a lot of games are going to somewhat stay away from Resident Evil Requiem, especially in the horror space, because it's Resident Evil. Now, State of Decay is not nearly as big as Resident Evil right now, but what I'm saying is I think there's going to be other games that are going to kind of try to fit around Resident Evil or kind of stay a little ways away from it because of how big of a game it is and franchise. And so State of Decay, if they place their stamp on, yo guys, we're releasing February of 2027, you might have a number of horror games that are planning on coming out in 2027, but they may stay away from that date. It's food for thought. And so, do I believe that State of Decay 3, do I think that they are going to release it in 2026? The longer time goes, I don't think so. Because 2026 is starting to get packed. They already announced, like, here's the thing, guys. They announced Fable's coming out in 2026. Gears of War E-Day, 2026. They didn't mention State of Decay 3. They had every opportunity to do that at the Xbox Game Showcase of 2025, but they didn't. So I'm just saying, I feel in my heart, I want to say it's coming out in 2026. But realistically, I think it's going to be 2027. And it could be as soon as Q1 of 2027. But I really believe, guys, I believe we will be getting a lot more information about State of Decay 3 at the showcase of 2026. That's just me. They definitely do need a system in the game where cars can randomly break down and you'll have to look for supplies to fix the car. Yeah? I mean, yeah, I agree. I think that there's a number of systems that they need to integrate into State of Decay 3. I just do. I mean, I think, you know, when we look at the State of Decay 2 trailer, you know, one of the cool things about it was the shrine. You know, like when you have your fallen, you know, members of your community, you have a shrine that's set up. I think that's really, I really like that personally. I think that's really cool. And so, you know, I don't know. I really feel that there's little features like that that are going to go a long way. But I also think that you definitely need to have like gameplay improvements, performance improvements. Like, dude, I'll give you an example. I think about, you know, State of Decay 2 had this, like, a lot of bugs and issues when it launched. And I feel like some of those bugs and glitches and stuff are still in the game to this day. You know, I think specifically about Daybreak, you know, the horde mode. There's just like bugs and glitches in it, like all over the place. And it's like, why weren't these things never fixed? Like, do they just like it being like this? You know, I don't know, bro. But nonetheless, I do think that I totally agree. that there's a number of systems that they need to improve on within State of Decay 3 to make it. I look at that State of Decay 3 trailer 1 as a perfect sign of what I think the direction they need to go in with having zombie wildlife. Like, imagine you're exploring and there's like zombie bears, zombie deer that are just there, and it's like you're dealing with that as well, right? It just adds more elements to the lore, the world that they're building, right? And then the change of season, I think that would be really awesome too. I mean, I can't even, begin to tell you guys how it gets kind of old going through the same exact towns over and over again in State of Decay 2. I don't know, bro. Like, I think that SOD or Undead Labs specifically needs to like create a bigger map, maybe, or just more things to do in the world. And I think it's reasonable to expect that they will do that. But let's move on, guys, to this next thing. I was talking about, mentioned a little bit in relation to Gears of War and the current state of Gears, but I wanted to talk about, I've made a number of videos now in relation to Gears of War Reloaded and the skill-based matchmaking that was introduced into the game. And I just keep seeing over and over again from players in the community, content creators covering Gears of War, myself included, just getting to a point where it feels like Gears of War Reloaded was filler content to get us to E-Day. And I mean, look, I don't blame them so much, that being like the coalition, for doing that. But I'm telling you, I totally am of the mind that if they would have done Gears of War Reloaded right, especially if they would have made it a collection, Gears of War 1, 2, 3 remastered on the PlayStation, I just feel like it could have built so much more hype for E-Day. But even on top of that, I think that Gears of War Reloaded, even if it's just Gears of War 1 remastered, imported to PlayStation, I think that if they cared more about it, not even so much the updates, because they're updating the game, guys, but if they would have just maybe added some additional features to it, horde mode, things of that nature, I don't know. Because I look at the numbers of how many people bought the game on PlayStation. It was like 269,000 or something of that nature. It's like, bro, to me, Jeff was saying that he felt like that was a pretty good number. I was like, dude, I think it's a terrible number. Helldivers 2, when it was ported to Xbox, I mean, at this point, it definitely has sold well over 1 million copies. 1 million copies. And Gears of War Reloaded didn't even get 300,000. I don't know, dude. They were excited about having 1 million players with Gears of War Reloaded. But most of those players were Xbox players who were probably playing the game for free on Xbox Game Pass, or, had Ultimate Edition, and so they were able to get Reloaded for free. I mean, like, bro, it just... And the skill-based matchmaking, I mean, we've started to slowly kind of talk about this ad nauseum, but I just feel like they're putting the wrong features in the game. I feel that skill-based matchmaking is good for ranked play, and that's pretty much it. I don't think it's good for pubs. I don't think it's good for anything else outside of ranked play, Because when I choose to play in ranked matches, I am choosing to like compete, right? And sweat and go hard because I want to reach the ranks of whatever, the top of the echelon, the top 250 or whatever it is I'm trying to do. I want to grind and play the best people on the planet. That's what rank plays for. But skill-based matchmaking in public matches makes absolutely no sense. No sense at all. I look back, guys, when I really started getting into multiplayer experiences, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 back in 2009 was the first game that I really got into multiplayer. I had played Halo 2 and we played split screen with my friends and we would do like little LAN parties and stuff like that. But when I really got into the online element of multiplayer was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 back in 2009. And what I'll tell you about that was, to me, it was overall a perfect experience. Like, yeah, there were some lobbies you would get into where the guys were just really, really good, but it like you wanted to get better, certainly, but the next lobby you would get into, you would play against a bunch of noobs, Christmas noobs or whatever. And it was awesome because every lobby was just a little bit different. Skill-based matchmaking has made it, they punish players for playing good. And for casual players, it's not good. Like, they want to play the game at a casual basis. They're not trying, they just want to have fun with their friends or have fun just playing by themselves. And skill-based matchmaking doesn't make that possible because you have one good game and then you get put into a blender the next game. And it creates this grind that is unsustainable for a lot of players. They end up moving on to other games. Now, games that have skill-based matchmaking, like Call of Duty, they can withstand people rage quitting or like leaving the game because they have such a ravenous fan base that they're not going to lose those people. But a game like Gears of War, where every player counts majorly because we're trying to bring this franchise back into the glory years of Gears, every person that you lose is a problem, a real problem. And it's gotten to a point where every game I get into, even with crossplay turned on, having crossplay and all that stuff, I'm running into very limited amounts of PlayStation players in the servers, primarily Xbox people. So it's like, the Gears of War tryhards are the ones who stay on the game, and everybody else who even wants to sniff playing Gears of War and get introduced into the multiplayer, good luck, man. You got to play Gears of War Reloaded with your friends. That's first of all, because if you're getting completely mollywopped by veterans, at least you can have some laughs with your friends about it, right? But you can't even do private match by yourself against bots to get better. They don't even have that as an option. They don't have a horde mode to go to play with your friends and rank up or, just play against AI or bots. And so it's like we have campaign and multiplayer, which the campaign, of course, guys, awesome. I love Gears of War 1. It kind of really opened up my eyes to what gaming could really be in the future. And it actually really was an inspiration for me to kind of get into YouTube and stuff, or at least kind of start looking into it. And I really kind of dove into it with Modern Warfare 2 back in 2009. But in 2006, and I got the game in 2007 for Gears of War 1, that's what kind of, I was like, this is cool. And I can't wait to see where this goes in the future. And it just so happened that, you started getting all these game captures and stuff around the time the MW2 came out. And that's what really got me into it. But if Gears of War 1 came out in 2009, when all that stuff was happening, man, I would have been creating Gears of War content for absolutely years because I loved it. And, I just feel bad for the people who are jumping into this for the first time ever, and they're getting completely annihilated by Gears of War veterans. And that's just not fun for people, man. Like, especially now that you added skill-based matchmaking, you just made the matter even worse. So now you have a PlayStation player who's now just starting to finally get a little bit better. They go into lobbies with veterans. It just, I don't know, dude. It's unsustainable to me. So most games, I think skill-based matchmaking, I really should say all games, it doesn't make sense unless you have ranked play, period. And that leads me into this next thing, ladies and gentlemen. Which I will be completely transparent with all of you. If I sat here and told you all that I was not getting concerned at all about Gears of War E-Day, I would be lying to you. Gears of War E-Day, I am very concerned about after the blunder that was Gears of War Reloaded. And I'm going to give you a multi-layered answer to this and reasoning behind my concern for Gears of War E-Day. The first thing I want to mention is, when can we expect to see more information about Gears of War E-Day? Well, I've seen it for a while, guys. People have asked about, the Game Awards in December, the Dev Direct in January. I don't think either of those we're going to hear anything about Gears of War E-Day. I would love it, guys. I would love it. We might get a little Easter egg or something, or maybe like Gears of War Reloaded does a Christmas event and they put some kind of Gears of War E-Day Easter egg in it or something. Like, I could see something like that happening, but I don't believe we are going to see anything about Gears of War E-Day until the Xbox Game Showcase of 2026, which would more than likely be June. And at that Xbox Game Showcase, I do believe it's going to be the direct of the Xbox Game Showcase. So I think, this past year, like I'd mentioned, we had the Outer Worlds 2, which was the direct, which was right after the Xbox Game Showcase. They did a deep dive into the Outer Worlds 2. I think we're going to be getting that next year for Gears of War E-Day. So if any of you are wondering my thoughts on that, could they do it at the Game Awards? Could they do it at the Dev Direct? Sure. But I think Xbox is like, we see how they're adding costs to their consoles, to Game Pass. They're adding all this stuff. I don't think they're going to spend money on having it shown at the Game Awards. They're going to show it at their own event, which would be Xbox Game Showcase. So with that down, here's why I'm really concerned about Gears of War E-Day. It should go without question that Gears of War E-Day is one of my most anticipated games of the future. Very excited about it. But with the way that Gears of War Reloaded was handled, it has me very concerned. And if you wanted me to say, if you said zero, what was the number one thing that really concerned you about Gears of War Reloaded? Before it even released to the world, I was pounding the table. I was screaming from the rooftops that Houston, we have a problem if Gears of War Reloaded is not consistently trying to market this game. Like the coalition, I should say. The marketing for Gears of War Reloaded was absolutely abysmal. It was awful. I don't care how you cut it. I'm talking free marketing, guys. Free marketing. So, guys, I run Zero Dark here, this gaming cafe, and I post on social media every single day, whether we have an event coming or not. I post every day, religiously, every day on Facebook, sometimes on X, but like every day on Facebook, every day on Instagram. It's like a religious thing that we do here. So a AAA game, AAA title, doesn't even post every day about Gears of War Reloaded. When you have a Gears of War X page that has hundreds of thousands of people that are followed that page. Same thing with Facebook, same thing with, TikTok and all these different forms of, social media. The Gears of War subreddit. The fact is that since Reloaded's released, before Reloaded released, they had like a couple of tweets. Nothing crazy. They were just like, they were posting, meet Marcus Phoenix, and it was like a video they posted on YouTube and they just shared it on X. Bro, where is the hype and where is the marketing for Gears of War Reloaded, bro? After Gears of War Reloaded releases, they release a tweet, but it's about an update or something of that, which I'm fine with, right? But like, it's not even them tweeting it. It's a repost from the Gears community X account. What I'm getting at is, if this is the type of marketing that we get for Gears of War E-Day, this could very well be the last Gears of War we ever get. Now, I believe that Gears of War E-Day will be, I believe in my heart of hearts, guys, it'll be the biggest Gears of War of all time, because you're adding PlayStation and all that stuff. And apparently we might be getting Switch too as well. But the marketing has got to be on point. It has to be. I look at movies. Okay, movies are a great example because it's another form of entertainment that I think the video game industry can kind of learn some stuff from, right? Not that you have to copy and paste what they do, but if a movie is not properly marketed, nobody knows about it. Like, no one will know. So, yeah, there's going to be a cult following for, like, let me give you an example. There's going to be a cult following for the Avengers, Secret Wars and Doomsday and all that stuff. But if you don't market that movie heavily, like, yeah, sure, word of mouth can only go so far, but you got to market that movie heavily. So it's like reminding people constantly, the movie's coming out this month, the movie's coming out in 7 days, the movie's coming out tomorrow. Like, you have got to be on it. Commercials, free marketing on social media, all that stuff, right? I think of the same way with games. Because sometimes people forget, like, oh yeah, that game's coming out this month. Gosh, I totally forgot. Oh, the game's already out. Are you kidding me? Like, this happens all the time with AAA games. But you can take the easiest free ways to market, like social media. And I'm just saying, guys, like, the Xbox game studios, their way that they market and the way that they utilize social media, those teams are not good. For Undead Labs, for the Coalition, it's not good, bro. And I should say, if you want to say, like, yeah, they're posting stuff, yeah, but it's not good enough. It's not just gonna breathe on its own, bro. You got to breathe life into it, and then it can start breathing on its own. But you got to build it first, and then once you build it, then like it can breathe on its own. They will come, like, whatever you want to, like, however you want to look at it. So E-Day, where I'm concerned about it, I'm not concerned that people, like, the Gears community is not going to be excited. I think the entire Gears of War community is going to be very excited for E-Day. I think even the PlayStation community, when they start seeing more and more about it, they're going to be very excited about it. But where I'm concerned is the marketing. Because if it's similar to Reloaded, and say Gears of War E-Day doesn't sell as well as Xbox was hoping, It's over, dude. Franchise is over. I mean, I know they're doing a Gears of War movie with Netflix. I'm sure they have hopes to continue doing Gears of War games. I mean, you know, maybe I guess guys, even if we get more Gears games, that's awesome. But if the franchise isn't growing in a major way, like we're getting a lot of new players, like we're just growing as a franchise, right? Like what Call of Duty and all these other, you know, games out there. It's like Gears of War, I don't care what anybody says, Gears of War should be one of the biggest third-person shooters on planet Earth, period. It should absolutely be like the mature Fortnite. That's what it should be. And I'm not saying that they got to go, like when I say mature, I'm not, and I compare it to Fortnite, I'm not saying like, you know, you do Fortnite skins like they were doing with Gears 5 or like kind of alluded to that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking everybody who, like all the kids play Fortnite. All the adults play Gears of War. Like that's in my brain, how I look at Gears. Like, I'm like, dude, this could absolutely, if you do it right, you do a Gears of War Battle Royale or whatever, dude. Like, it could absolutely be the mature Fortnite. I don't know, dude. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe like, I don't know. Maybe I'm living in a like living in a dream in Sarah. Like, I don't know, bro. But I'm just telling you, and for me, I don't have any experience with game development. We are in the process within Zero Dark. We are making a Roblox game, so we're kind of seeing like, you know, I mean, Roblox is totally different than Unity or Unreal Engine and stuff. Like, it's very, very different. But like, you know, we're seeing like the very small sliver of what like it takes to make a game, and it's a lot. And I understand that, but like, you put so much into these games, but then such little effort into marketing it when that's like your baby, bro. And I get it. Like, if you don't have a budget for it, like, I'll give you an example. You know, Zero Dark, I don't have, like, we're a startup, okay? We don't have a huge marketing budget right now because we just started, and we're trying to build it through, like, you know, word of mouth. We're trying to build it through, you know, consistency of creating content, whether it's on YouTube or social media and stuff, like every single day. Like, we don't have the budget yet. You know, we're still trying to get started. Gears of War started in 2006. They've had all these years, bro, the 20-year anniversary, to build this thing. If they don't have a marketing budget, it'll be studied like what happened to Gears of War as a franchise. Because you've got Xbox backing this thing. I mean, dude, where's the money going for the marketing? Like, where did the marketing budget go for Gears of War Reloaded? Like, where is it? You know, you can't tell me that they had no marketing budget. They had to have had a marketing budget. Where did it go? So, I don't know, guys, but I'm concerned about E-Day. I'm very excited about E-Day, cautiously optimistic about Gears of War E-Day, but I am unequivocally concerned about it. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about it in the comment section down below. What's up, Hard Vegetable? Sadly, Microsoft Xbox doesn't see the potential of it. Their main focus is for Xbox Game Pass and Xbox platform as a launcher of pumping better product. Money is there, focus isn't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, bro. Like, I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I just, if they didn't see the potential of it, why didn't they cancel it? You know what I'm saying? Why didn't they move those teams to Call of Duty? Like, hey guys, you know what? Screw Gears of War. Let's just move. We're going to move all you guys to Call of Duty. You guys are all going to do a horde mode for COD, or you guys are going to help work on the Blackout Return Battle Royale for Call of Duty, or we're going to move you guys to the new Halo, or you know what I'm saying? Like, Gears of War, make no mistake about it, is one of the flagship IPs for Xbox. When we talk about Xbox exclusives, before Call of Duty was acquired by Xbox, there was the big three. And that. Give me a sec. What's up, bruh? What's up? yeah, dude. What do you want? What are you trying to do? Don't tell me. Perfect. Love it. Yeah, dude. Whatever you want. Oh. All right, guys. Pardon the interruption. Uh, obviously, um, actually, um, Jaden's back from back in Zero Dark again. He was on our podcast last week, which was awesome. Yours chosen has joined our community. Hey, yours chosen. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for joining the community. Absolutely awesome, man. Very, very grateful for you, and excited to have you officially a part of the squad, dude. Officially a part of Horror Theory and everything that we're doing over here. I mean, we've got a lot of plans for the just the future. And I'm just really grateful for all of you guys and girls out there that are subscribing to the channel, following us on social media, joining the community. All that stuff really helps in kind of building what we're um, as a collective unit, like all of us trying to build something really special around, games like State of Decay, around just horror, putting a real spotlight on horror games. And I just think that it's not, I think horror is getting much different rap than it used to. It used to be, kind of taboo to really talk about like horror games and movies and stuff, but it's becoming way more widely accepted, which is awesome. And it's growing rapidly in all forms of medium. And so I'm just very grateful for all of you. The simple liking the videos, subscribing, interacting in the live streams and stuff. It really helps us a lot. Just as we're trying to build this thing, as you, any of you guys who are trying to, whatever it is, if you're trying to make a game and you're trying to build a game, like having support is huge. When you're trying to build a YouTube channel, I mean, it just takes time. It's a lot of energy. It's all those different things. And so I'm eternally grateful for all of you. We've been growing every single day on the YouTube channel. We've been, from viewership to just everything, man. I mean, everything. It's incredible. So super grateful for all of you, and yours chosen. What a goat, dude. Really appreciate you. Okay. I think where did I put my notes? Hold on a sec, guys. All right. So far, guys, we have talked about a whole bunch of different things. And we're going to continue talking about them here. Hard Vegetable says, I'm not the biggest fan of horror games, but I love horror movie slashers. Well, and I also really enjoy Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Game I dumped like 300 hours on that one. No way, dude. Yeah, horror movie slashers are I mean, I guess like I'm just a lover of everything horror, whether it's games, whether it's movies. I would say that, you know, uh, I probably I watch more horror movies than any other kind of movie. You know what I'm saying? I'll watch anything, but I just really like watching a good horror movie. Like, I don't know what it is, the adrenaline from the jump scares or just the tension. I just think that you can tell such interesting stories within horror movies, and then games. I've always been into, the Dead Spaces of the world, and obviously, more recently, like the Callisto Protocol and Outlast. I mean, gosh, man, Alien Isolation and all these different like horror games. I'm a massive fan of as well, and that's why that's kind of what inspired horror theory was, you know, everything in the world of horror, gaming. And we just try to give you guys like some insight into what it all means, the things that we're learning about these different horror games. I know like the primary focal point has been State of Decay, and with good reason, because State of Decay, it's been kind of just in this development hell, situation, and it's a very anticipated game, one of the most anticipated games, in terms of within the horror community, certainly. But yeah, I'm all in for it for sure. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, um, I think about that and I say, that was a really I did enjoy that game. I really did. I think there was certainly some elements to it that were different. It gave me some like a little bit of some Dead by Daylight vibes. It gave me like vibes of a few different things, but I thought it was awesome that it exists, right? And we look at Friday the 13th, and then of course the Halloween game that's going to be coming out by the makers of Friday the 13th. That's going to be really interesting. I thought we were going to see more information about the Halloween game at the Horror Game Awards Halloween Showcase. We didn't, and that's because it's a AAA game. But I think the other game that really kind of caught my attention, if we talk about like cultural phenomenon type movies that are now being converted into games, was that Hellraiser game, Hellraiser Revival. That game looks like it's going to be pretty wild. And so, yeah, man, I'm all in for everything in the world of like, just horror and horror games and stuff. That's what, like what we're all about. Friday the 13th game was a good game. It's a shame that it's gone. Yeah, I agree, dude. Totally. I mean, yeah, there is nothing about that. That's, yeah. Outlast Trials was a bit disappointing for me, but I love the Dark Pictures anthology. That's interesting, dude. The Outlast Trials I really liked. I mean, Outlast 2 was my favorite one of the Outlast games. I don't know, dude. I guess everybody's different, right? The Outlast Trials I really liked because it was scary, but I think what maybe took some of the scariness away from it was it being co-op, right? When you're playing by yourself, nothing to defend yourself, you're hiding in, haystacks and like creeping in cornfields and stuff in Outlast 2. Absolutely unnerving, terrifying experience. And so Outlast is an absolutely terrifying franchise. I would say it's, Outlast 2 is probably one of the scariest games ever made. Now, the Outlast Trials, yeah, it's not as scary, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. Just the fact of the matter that we were able to play it with your friends and, whatever. But anyways, yeah, so I thought I thought Outlast Trials was good. But the Dark Pictures anthology is a fascinating franchise. And, if obviously we did our Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase watch party the other day, and one of the games that they showed there that really reminded me of the Dark Pictures anthology was what was it called? Broken Lore. Broken Lore announced like 4 games at the Horror Game Awards Halloween showcase, and they showed them like back to back to back, and I was like blown away at how awesome, like, not even so much that the games look incredible. I mean, they look good. They're each different in their own right, similar to what we were seeing with the Dark Pictures anthology. But you could tell that it was inspired by the Dark Pictures anthology. The, Until Dawn, the new one that's coming is Directive 8020. You could totally see like, oh yeah, these guys who are making these Broken Lore games, they are absolutely inspired by the Dark Pictures anthology. So I'm totally with you, man. I think that's awesome. I'm very much looking forward to State of Decay 3, the reason I found this channel. Yeah, I mean, State of Decay 3, dude, is kind of what's bringing a lot of us together. I think we're rallying around State of Decay 3. I don't know, dude. I think that State of Decay 3 is, I think it's going to be the biggest game within the State of Decay universe without a shadow of a doubt because of I mean, the fact that it may very well be going, more than likely, it'll be going to PlayStation as well as the Switch too. Bro, it's going to be a massive game. And so I think it's going to be it's great that we're creating these connections now so that when this game finally comes out, man, we're going to have so much content and stuff to talk about. It's going to be incredible. But with that being said, guys, I want to talk about this. Man, what's really interesting about horror theory is we've been getting a lot of, I mean, yes, people in our comment section and everything else, they ask us about a lot of times, you know, horror games, but they also ask us a ton about just games in general. They like, you know, it seems like a lot of you guys like hearing our thoughts and opinions on a number of different games, not just horror. Wadey Splash says, can Xbox get Days Gone? Pfft, dude, that would be sick. I would love to see Days. I mean, I have been, you know, that's been another game I've been pounding the table about getting a sequel for, is a Days Gone 2. I feel like Days Gone, like, should have a sequel. And I know we got a remaster, right? But I just think that there's a pretty ravenous fan base around Days Gone, and with good reason. I think it was a good game. It did sell a lot. I think the problem is it didn't sell as much as they were anticipating or hoping for. I think they were hoping for like a Last of Us the Last of Us kind of numbers, and they didn't get that. And I feel like Days Gone, it kind of just took time to really build, like a lot of word of mouth over the course of time. It didn't have great sales numbers immediately, but over time it's really started to build momentum. So hopefully we can see Days Gone too. It'd be cool if Xbox was able to get it, or if just PlayStation just continued it, right? But I want to talk about this. You know, a lot of got a lot of comments, guys, from people in our comment section asking about the Black Ops 7 beta, which just came out today. And if you guys watch our other channels, whether it's my channel, Animal Zero, where I talk about Gears of War, or We're Animal, which is our team channel, where we talk about everything in the world of like the first-person shooter games, we have talked a lot on Animal, especially about Black Ops 7 versus Battlefield 6, the numbers Battlefield 6 was doing at the beta, what Black Ops 7 is going to do. And so a lot of people asking, will, you know, do I still feel the same way I did about Black Ops 7 outselling Battlefield 6? And I stated this a lot, and I got a ton of flack for it, guys. A lot of people were absolutely crushing me in the comment section on Animal in relation to this topic. But I really believe that it was more the Battlefield hive mind of people just who are passionate about Battlefield, who hate Call of Duty, were just crushing me. Well, I don't think that the Black Ops 7 beta is going to do as well as the Battlefield 6 beta did. I mean, it might, but I don't think so. Because, I mean, we saw the numbers that the Black Ops 6 beta did, and it did pretty big numbers, but it didn't do as big a numbers as Battlefield 6 did, like their beta numbers. So I think the beta numbers are going to be a little bit skewed. I think Black Ops 7 is not going to do as well from that perspective. But I still stand by what I said before, that Black Ops 7, at the end of the day, is going to annihilate Battlefield 6 in terms of sales numbers. Like, I think Battlefield 6 is going to be the best-selling Battlefield ever. But Black Ops 7, I think that Call of Duty is such a much bigger fan base than Battlefield. And with Xbox Game Pass, and you can play it day one on Xbox Game Pass, I don't see how in hell Battlefield can keep up with that. Like, how are they going to be able to keep up with those types of numbers that are going to be being drawn from Black Ops 7 when it's releasing day one on Xbox Game Pass? And on top of that, I think about like when we look at the numbers that Black Ops 7 has been pulling in from their reveal trailers to their gameplay trailers to their multiplayer reveal trailers, all of that stuff. And then you look at the numbers that Battlefield 6 is doing for their multiplayer reveals and all that stuff, the numbers aren't even close, guys. Like, it's not even close. The multiplayer reveal for Battlefield 6 has like 10, 11 million views, somewhere in there. The Black Ops 6 or Black Ops 7 multiplayer reveal trailer surpassed the Battlefield 6 multiplayer reveal numbers in less than 24 hours. Like, in terms of viewership on YouTube, right? Like, it's not even close. The actual reveal that got tons of backlash from Black Ops 7, the like initial reveal trailer, garnered 40 million views. Battlefield 6 is nowhere even in the same stratosphere as that. And so for those reasons, I'm telling you that Black Ops 7 is going to annihilate Battlefield 6. Because the other thing is the data also tells me that if we go back a number of years ago, a lot of people are comparing Black Ops 7 Battlefield 6 to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Battlefield 1. And when those two games came out, Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was at the time the most disliked YouTube video of all time. That multiplayer reveal trailer, the most disliked of all time. And Battlefield 1 did pretty good in terms of numbers, but Infinite Warfare's numbers were way higher than Battlefield 1's. And then when the game's released and at the end of the year, Infinite Warfare was still the best-selling game that year. It was not Battlefield 1. So even if you want to compare it to the past, Call of Duty still won the FPS war. So for those reasons, guys, I'm out on Battlefield 6 being like the FPS king. It's not happening. Black Ops 7, it's going to mollywop it. And so there's that. And on top of that, I mean, you know, Battlefield 6, they're going to be releasing their Battlefield 6 is going to be releasing, let's see, their Battle Royale, I believe like late October. And then Blackout is going to be returning spring of 2026 for Call of Duty, which is going to be interesting. The fact that they're bringing Blackout back and they also have Warzone. I don't know how all that's going to work, but they're definitely attempting that. So, you know, it is what it is. And I don't know. Maybe Battlefield's Battle Royale will be bigger than Call of Duty's Blackout. I don't know. I doubt it. But, you know, maybe Battlefield would get a one-up on that. But as an overall, like overarching Black Ops 7 versus Battlefield 6, it's not even going to be close. But with that down and out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this, shall we? This next thing that I wanted to talk about, a lot of comments, a lot of talk about this. EA got bought out. They are now going private. And certainly concerns around it, guys. Is there a silver lining? You know, EA to me has been, I outside of a couple of games, I feel like EA's gotten really, really complacent with stuff. Like, I'll give you an example. EA is they're a company that, you know, people always get on Call of Duty for being a copy and paste every year, right? When Call of Duty over the years has gone from boots on the ground to jetpacks, back to boots on the ground, World War I era, World War II, modern day, futuristic. They change the formula a little bit every year. But EA, with Madden, with a lot of these, you know, sports games, as well as games like Assassin's Creed. I guess Assassin's Creed, what is that? Ubisoft? Never mind. But like, I would say a wide amount of EA's games they've gotten very complacent with. And the one that really stands out to me is Madden. And like, bro, I'm just like, dude, are you kidding me right now, bro? Battlefield is one that I feel like they're trying to really like get this one down to compete with Call of Duty, and so I give them props for that. But it's felt like kind of one step forward, two step backwards for EA in a number of ways. My biggest question is will this buyout, which is happening from a multitude of different investment groups, including the Saudi Arabian government, will it equal continuations of some IPs that we've been waiting for continuations on for a long time? Dead Space, for example. We got a Dead Space remake in 2023. We were hoping that the success of it, which from all accounts, it was successful, even though EA was saying it didn't sell as well as they thought it would. I don't know. We want to see a Dead Space 4. Will that happen now? I don't know. Probably not. Battlefront 3. You know, a lot of people are asking about, you know, Star Wars and those IPs. Are they gonna, you know, continue Battlefront after the resurgence of Battlefront 2? Medal of Honor. We haven't gotten a Medal of Honor in a long time. Now, maybe it's because they want to stick with Battlefield. You know, Battlefield is going to continue churning out a lot of revenue for EA, certainly. So maybe they want to stay away from Medal of Honor. They don't want to create another competitor to Battlefield and take revenue share away from it. So they just stick with Battlefield. Maybe that's why. Army of Two. That's another one where it's like we got a couple of those games and then those stopped. I am of the belief that buyouts like this don't always equal positive things. So EA getting bought out by a whopping $55 billion by a group of investors along with the Saudi Arabian government. I'm not buying that it's all going to be cookies and rainbows. I think in a way, I think that, you know, we look at the Saudi Arabia, they are investing heavily in esports. You know, they got the Esports World Cup in Riyadh. They're bringing a ton of revenue, a ton of money into esports, because I think that this is their way of saying we want to get into sports in one way, shape, or form. And the way that they're kind of really doing it in a major way, I mean, certainly other sports, but esports is becoming a big investment for them. Well, EA just so happens to hold the rights to a number of sports video games. Like I said, including Madden. Is this their plan of kind of infiltrating into the gaming ecosystem and all that stuff? And you know, outside of just doing like Esports World Cup, you know, because I think it's reasonable to expect that Esports World Cup is going to continue into the future. I mean, they are going to continue doing the Esports World Cup every year. without a shadow of a doubt. And I think that the Esports World Cup, the production quality and all that stuff is great, you know. But I just don't know if this acquisition and now EA going private is going to create better quality games, you know. I mean, you know, like I said, silver lining, maybe this is going to draw in like fresh blood into the space where they kind of give a lot more creative control to the creatives to make the games that they want. I have a hard time believing that they're going to allow that, but, you know, we'll kind of have to wait and see on it. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, guys, is, you know, we had there's been some rumblings, some rumors about a game that I remember playing on the Xbox 360, and I thought, wow, dude, this is transcending this kind of genre. And at the time, it was unknown IP. So it kind of reminded you a little bit of like Spider-Man, had like, you know, superhero kind of powers and stuff. Very intriguing protagonist. Prototype. Alex Mercer was our main protagonist, and that game garnered a good amount of attention. The second game I felt was a major step in the wrong direction. They moved away from Alex Mercer way too quickly. But there's been some data miners that are seeing that Prototype is getting updates, things of that nature, which is starting to build a lot of rumors and rumor mills around the idea that Prototype maybe, just maybe, is getting a remaster. Now, Prototype 1, I'm a massive fan of. I loved Prototype 1. I thought it was incredible. You know, another game around that time that came out from, was it Insomniac? Who was it? Another game that came out around that time, or Sucker Punch. The guys and girls who are doing Ghost of Yotei, Ghost of Tsushima, they made a game called Infamous. And Infamous, I thought, was a pretty interesting game as well. It was kind of similar to Prototype in a couple of ways. I thought Prototype was way more compelling, way more just the versatility of your character and everything else. I loved Prototype 1. A remaster of it, I would absolutely love. I'm all over it. I would love to see a remaster of Prototype 1, and I would love to see if that continues into them creating a Prototype 3, or maybe just like a soft reboot of the franchise. I would love to see a soft reboot of Prototype, but stick with Alex Mercer for at least a trilogy, please. Alex Mercer is that kind of, you know, speechless character that reminds you of like an assassin from Assassin's Creed. He reminded me of like Altair from Assassin's Creed. Hooded figure. It's got these powers and stuff. I thought it was very compelling. And so hopefully they decide to do a Prototype remaster. We'll have to wait and see on that, though. And then another game that we've been, you know, people have asked us about on a multitude of fronts is Far Cry. You know, there's a lot of rumor and speculation right now that Far Cry 7 or Far Cry Rise is going to release in 2026. And I'm telling you, dude, if it releases in 2026, I'm all in. I mean, I love the Far Cry games. Now, I will tell you that there's certainly been some hits and misses. You know, I really started playing those games when it was like Far Cry 3. And I thought that Voss was a great character, just or villain, I should say. Great villain. A lot of people say he's the best villain in Far Cry. I disagree. I thought that the Seed family in Far Cry 5, just all of them, all had their, you know what I mean? I loved the Seed family. I thought that those were incredible villains, but Voss is certainly a close second for me. Where they're going here with 7 is going to be interesting because you had Far Cry 3, I thought was great. Far Cry 4, with Pagan Men and stuff, I didn't think it was as good. Then you had Far Cry 5, which I believe was the best, the greatest of all of the Far Cry games, and it wasn't even close to me. I thought it was absolutely incredible. You've had some spin-offs in between there. You had Primal, which was really good. You had New Dawn. I didn't like New Dawn. And then, of course, Far Cry 6. It's felt like, it's almost like every other major entry in the franchise has been really good, but like every other game has not been good, like, or as good, as compelling. And I feel this to be true with the Far Cry franchise, because Far Cry 3 I thought was great. Far Cry 4 I thought was it was okay. Far Cry 5 I thought was incredible. Far Cry 6 I thought, yeah, it was good, just, a step down from Far Cry 5. And so now we're due for a banger in Far Cry 7 or Far Cry 7 Rise. And apparently it's going to release in 2026, and I hope that that comes true, but man, we really have, it's been radio silence, and so, I mean, we're coming to near the end of the year, haven't really heard anything. I mean, we're hearing rumblings and rumors and speculation, but is it really going to release in 2026 when you have the likes of, of course, Call of Duty comes out every year. You got Gears of War E-Day, you got Fable, you got GTA 6, you got Resident Evil Requiem. You've got a lot of major hitters. Now, not a lot of the games that are coming out may or may not be, your first-person shooters, right? A lot of those games I was just mentioning aren't really your, first-person shooters, besides really, Call of Duty. But I just wonder, as 2026 is getting pretty packed with other games, does Ubisoft want to release Far Cry 7 in 2026 or wait until 2027? Especially when there really has been kind of radio silence in terms of when the game's coming out, official title. Unless I'm missing something, guys, and the official title is Far Cry 7 Rise. I don't know. But I don't know, man. I love Far Cry. I love that it exists. I've always stated that they really need to have I always thought as I was playing those games, campaigns are awesome. They got some co-op elements to them. But I always thought that it would have it could be a really cool multiplayer experience if done right. And, it's been interesting because a lot of the Ubisoft IPs, I look back on it, I'm like, man, dude, they don't really do multiplayer. You got Rainbow Six Siege, that's very competitive though. But like a casual multiplayer experience, PvP or, PvE or, whatever, Ubisoft really doesn't do a whole heck of a lot. At least from the games that I've played, like Assassin's Creed had a multiplayer, didn't really work. Splinter Cell, when that came out, that had they did do co-op, I think, with Blacklist. But multiplayer has been kind of slept on over at Ubisoft. And I feel like Far Cry is kind of like their game that, hey, dude, you got Far Cry. Now they tried it with X Defiant, but X Defiant, was free to play, and you were directly trying to compete against Call of Duty. Once again, just the biggest mistake of all time, similar to what, EA did with Titanfall, putting it right between Battlefield and COD. I mean, just made absolutely no sense at all. Ubisoft releases X Defiant the same day as the Black Ops 6 beta, and here we are. X Defiant gets shut down months later. I just, look, you've got the game. It's Far Cry. Make it a multiplayer as well as the campaign as well. You know what I'm saying? What are we doing here? The resource and development to go into X Defiant, which was a good idea, having a lot of the different characters from your other IPs in one shooter, it's a good idea. But man, dude, you've got the game. It's Far Cry. You know, I mean, it's a first person shooter. You want something that, you know, you can create some compelling stuff through that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I would love to hear guys' thoughts about it, though, in the comment section down below. Should Far Cry 7, first and foremost, do you think it's going to release in 2026? And secondly, do you think it should have a multiplayer, like a heavy emphasis on multiplayer, like a PvP or something of that nature, similar to something like Call of Duty or like what they were trying to do with X Defiant, but maybe just within Far Cry? Jump down to the comment section down below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to sit here and say thank you so much to each and every one of you for joining us for this episode of Horror Theory. And we got, talked about a whole bunch of different things, guys, from, the Horror Game Awards Halloween Showcase to the Game Awards to, Gears of War, State of Decay, Black Ops, Battlefield, EA getting acquired, Prototype Remaster rumors, Far Cry. I mean, all these different games that, we're talking about. And like I said, for the most part, we talk about horror-related things, within Horror Theory, but sometimes we get a lot of comments about other games that you wouldn't even think we would be getting comments about. And I think it's just that people want to hear our comments, opinions, things of that nature about some of these games and what we think about them. And so I'm just grateful that I've got you guys here, being a part of the live streams, being a part of the content. I really appreciate all of you. Major shout out to Yours Chosen as well for becoming a member of Horror Theory. You guys can definitely, if you guys do that, help support the channel in a major way. But really, guys, at the end of the day, the things that really help us, outside of going above and beyond like that, joining the community and stuff is huge. But, just liking the video, subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, that really does help in a massive way. Just helps us with, getting what we're trying to do out there to everybody. And to people who love State of Decay, love horror games and, just the horror industry and the genre as a whole. But I'm very grateful for each and every one of you guys and girls out there. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Horror Theory. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure that you just leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, just keep grinding. And as always, I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out.